Welcome back to the Convo Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Jonny Sue is on the ones and two. Fam.
We're
going to go see some hockey tonight.
You guys are going to go see hockey.
Yes, we are.
I have no desire to do that.
But when the best, hottest team in hockey is in town, the New York Islanders,
oh God,
from my hometown on Long Island, when Mr. Matt Barzell is there with the spirit of the dragon, you got to go. He's in town. We're going to go see the Mighty Ducks not look so mighty tonight and stuff. So.
Fam, I was with the Bernie people yesterday, and none of us like sports, and we were like shouting, like Crow was shouting, go, what he was shouting, like, go sports team, or go ball, like he was making fun of them at Rocco's, and I was laughing because I felt right at home because I think, I'm not a fan of sports.
I'm rooting for the Ducks.
You're not rooting for the Ducks, you son of a beeswax.
I'm rooting for the Ducks too, just to spite Pasta, even though
just to piss me off. Well, the Jets won third game in a row, 30 points plus. So you can't say the Jets suck.
They've won 3 games. Wow.
4 games. They're 4-7
Interception every game.
They're not. Sam Darnold is performing up to task for a change. We want to thank the 32 people who are now here on the Convo Couch YouTube. Guys, everybody go like, share, and subscribe. We are seriously getting suppressed. They are blacklisting us, unsubscribing people. The bell's not going off, so we need your help out there. Jeff Pearson, Denise Gibson, 53. I'm a BITCH. Larry Janney, thank you so much. Jay Bird is also hanging with us. And on the Facebookies, we have Finn, 5 people. Gable Ramirez. Fam, how you doing?
Finn.
Jeffrey Denton. Andrew Clemo. Scott Dakota. Chad Wilson. How are you guys all doing? Don't worry, people will start matriculating in. Like, share, subscribe, fam. So I have a question for you. We're going to start the show off with a little foreign policy, kind of civil liberties, kind of like our part to play, what's going on with the humans in our world, the humans in the state, the elites, and what's going on. But the thing I can't figure out is who is the boss, fam? Is it Israel or the U.S.? Because when you look at this thing we're going to put up right now, and this just happened over less than a week ago, the United States has a criminal alliance with Israel, okay? This is one of our situations, fam. You know about this. You talk about this a lot. We talk about Abby Martin's film and whatnot, but take a look at this. The thumbing his nose at the Geneva Convention, the Rome Statute, the UN Security Council, and the UN General Assembly, and the International Court of Justice, Donald Trump decided that Israel's unlawful construction of Jewish settlements in occupied Palestinian territory is lawful. The policy change is part of Trump's pattern of seeking to legitimize illegal Israeli practices. What's that? To legalize illegal Israeli practices. Sorry. It panders to Israel at the expense of the Palestinians while aiming to burnish Trump's bona fides with the Christian Zionist base. So you can see down below the next paragraph, it says the timing of this was not tied to anything that had to do with the domestic politics anywhere in Israel or otherwise. And that's what Pompeo is saying, because right now, your boy Netanyahu, he's under indictment. He's being charged with bribery and fraud. And the reason why I put up the Al Jazeera one is because I no longer want to sit there and justify or solidify mainstream media's points. And this is all over. This is in the Washington Post, the New York Times. All these papers have reported on what is going on. And it's, once again, it's just this practice of bully imperialism, fam. But the Democrats, they're really not the opposition to Donald Trump. They say this all the time. And you can see this right here. And I put this article up, and this is also something happened. Why the hell did the Democrats just extend the Patriot Act? Okay, so in a leadership bill, a bill that just came forward with funding, leadership has stood by, and it rolled up the Patriot Act, the extension of it. Now, all this talk of Donald Trump is not fit for office, he's crazy, what's going on. First, it was the FISA courts. That's when we saw that, family. We said, there's no way that this party is the opposition to Donald Trump. Here we go again. And before we go any further, I would like to hear your opinion on what you think about this right now. A lot of people aren't talking about this. The mainstream media is not talking about it. Guess what? The Patriot Act's going to be extended, fam, and that's the biggest violation on our civil liberties.
Well, they consistently vote in line with Donald Trump. They did this also regarding the military budget, and they continue to do this because they're not in opposition to Donald Trump. They're in opposition to people like Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard, who challenge the status quo, and that is ever the more clear. And what worries me is even People like Ro Khanna have supported this Patriot Act, and this was brought up to my attention by both Berners and Tulsi supporters. Ro Khanna is co-chair of the Bernie Sanders campaign.
Yeah.
And he has consistently been voting in a very, very destructive way. He voted for the resolution to fund weapons to Israel, and now he's voted for the Patriot Act, and he's kind of been on Twitter saying certain things in support of Elizabeth Warren, which has worried some people. So I wanted to point that out because it's like, well, that's the progressives, quote unquote, right? So it's like, how, like, if everybody calls himself a progressive now, if Nancy Pelosi is signing on to the Patriot Act and then touting herself as a progressive, who really is left to be progressive? I think this election is going to show that. It's going to pretty much take off all the masks and show us that how very few people have actual integrity and morals to stand up to actual change, to actual systemic change, because otherwise this is going to continue. And there's no way they're going to continue. I mean, people are fed up with the whole, like, oh, you need to vote for X Democrat because Donald Trump. I mean, we're just done with that. And they think they're going to be able to get away with this, voting this way, being hypocrites. They think they're going to be able to continue. And I feel like the majority of the American population either won't participate or you'll have Donald Trump again. And that's that.
And, I think that's great, too, because it really, I mean, we're so divided amongst each other. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about the left, everybody calling themselves a progressive, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But let's take a look at a couple of the pros and cons, mainly the cons, because of the Patriot Act really quickly. Because,
remind me, what is the Patriot Act?
Well, the Patriot Act was signed into place after 9/11, and it was pretty much to aid law enforcement, the deep state, the FBI, the CIA, and eliminate a lot of barriers that were in place that they said they needed to break down to go after terrorism. Okay, so you can see the list of the pros of the Patriot Act. It said that it strengthened U.S. measures to detect, prevent, and prosecute the financing of terrorism. So, in other words, they didn't have to go get certain warrants, or the warrants they were able to obtain that they needed to obtain. It was easier for them. They put up all the checks and balances. It added scrutiny to the foreign jurisdictions and financial institute. It instituted measures within the U.S. financial system to stop corruption. And this is true. At certain points, if they found a line of finances, they can stop it. You know what I'm saying? So they can stop the funding of terrorism. The only problem is who's actually funding the terrorism. And it's a big vicious cycle and a wheel going around and round. We support Saudi Arabia. We give them weapons and money, right?
Absolutely.
We do business with them. Well, who's the number one supporter of Wahhabism caliphates around the world? Saudi Arabia. So in essence, we're funding terrorism.
Right.
So it expanded the surveillance authority regarding what the government could perform, and it improved communication better to resources to provide more speed. And that was all the whole thing where the FBI and the CIA didn't communicate with each other. After 9/11, they sent out supposedly jets to the middle of the Pacific Ocean to go towards Russia, and they didn't even know what the hell was going on. So they wanted to link all these groups together, all these agencies together. But fam, it was the Ben, and maybe you might remember, it's the Ben Franklin saying when he says, those who would give up a little liberty or protection for freedoms deserve neither liberty or freedoms themselves. It was an old Ben Franklin saying that said, like, if you give up a little security just for a little extra protection, then you deserve no liberty or freedoms yourself. I'm sure our audience will tell us. Take a look at the cons of the Patriot Act, okay? And this is what I'm talking about, our civil liberties. More than anything, it reduced the checks and balances on our government's oversight. Now, I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I want every single checks and balance when it comes to our government oversight, because we're imperialist. And we're going to manufacture consent. We're going to lie. We're going to cheat. We're going to steal. So I want to look at them all the time. It reduced public accountability. Once again, they gave people get-out-of-jail-free cards. Just like the Bolivian government right now, which is giving their police officers a free get-out-of-jail card. You're not going to be prosecuted for shooting anybody. You get a pass. It reduced the ability of the public to challenge the government in search in court, okay? This stuff has been happening all and over again. We talked about Obama signing in that law, which didn't allow the people, the victims, to go out and sue the Saudi courts, okay? So now you can't use the courts to help you. It allowed government officials to target citizens not under criminal investigation. You didn't commit a crime, John. You didn't get a friggin' parking ticket. But you know what? Because you have a certain political ideology, we can start looking at you. We can start watching you. We can open up your emails. We can search just because you feel a certain way. We don't need to go to the government. We don't need to go to the courts. Because of the Patriot Act, we have that for ourselves. It allowed for unlawful imprisonment. Okay? We can hold this guy. We can imprison this guy. We don't have to give him due process. We don't have to give him his rights. He's under the Terrorism Patriot Act. We can hold on to him for justification that we think he's a terrorist. Okay? And it polarized communities. It certainly did. So that's what they just allowed to go right into play. They took away the checks and balances. Like I said, they have obfuscated going away from these issues when it comes to the Democrats. And I just want to say this because when you talk about the one of the biggest violations, we talk about that. They openly lie to the public, all sides, even the Democrats. And I want to point this out because remember when Obama called state-funded terrorists moderate rebels? This just came out the other day when people were going, oh, Tulsi Gabbard was wrong when she made Obama say radical Islamic fundamentalists. No, these were the craziest people. They weren't moderate rebels. He was being disingenuous when he was doing that. When he was speaking to Americans, no, they took money and weapons out of Libya and gave it to psychos. The beheadings, the craziest of the craziest. He funded them, and then he tried to go tell the American public they were moderate rebels.
It'd be the equivalent of giving weapons to Nazis, literally hood-wearing Nazis who want guns and want to kill people. Yeah. That's the equivalent.
Which he did in
and
Ukraine.
It's not because it's not about just the fact that they're Muslim. It's not like we're inciting hate against Muslims. This is fundamentalist, and any sort of fundamentalist, whether they're Christian, Muslim, or whatever they are, it is a danger. So that's basically what we do. We fund fundamentalist mindsets and then turn around and send people to fight them.
Yeah.
Which
even in this article, it says moderate, in quotations, rebels armed by Obama join Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The same people who killed us, the same people we're supposed to be fighting, we funded it. And only one person had the courage to say, no, you're not allowed to call them moderate rebels. Right. You're lying. And for that, they smear her by saying, oh, you're an Islamophobe. You're, right. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to say this stuff. You're trash. Wrong. These are the same tactics, fam, that Reagan used back in the 80s to fool the American people about the Contras in Nicaragua when they were fighting against the Sandinistas. And if we remember correctly, if some of you are old enough to remember, we sold drugs on the streets. We put crack cocaine on the streets to fund these illegal actions. And after all this stuff happened, that's when you saw the NED form and all these other NGOs and stuff. Johnny, if you could put up that little article real quick about what Reagan did right there. You can see Reagan gives the CIA authority to establish the Contras. Once again, these people weren't, with the NED and all these NGOs, we're kind of feeding agitation. Right here, we're feeding murder. We're funding murder. Plain and simple murder. And today, we do the same thing. And as we know, me and Johnny were talking about it today with the mainstream media and these fugazi NGOs like the OPCW, which is another just base arm of propaganda for the CIA. They're still assisting the CIA and American Israeli imperialism. Here it is again. It talks about a real whistleblower, okay? A real whistleblower came out and said, no, they took this report, they made a redacted report to sell to the people so that we can have manufacturer consent for making Syria the enemy and going after them. So that's what this is all about. So, fam, my question to you is, what the hell do we do now? Because the left is at war with each other. We are distracted by all these baseless scandals like impeachment, which is just terrible. And the elites in our Congress are passing and violating laws that just kill our civil liberties while promoting imperialism. So what do we do as a group when we're just fighting each other? Because that's their main weapon and their main tool is to have us fight about our differences, and they just go off and do what they want to do.
Well, I mean, we bring this stuff to the attention. I mean, we listen to mainstream media, we call our Congress people, but what we really have to do is stop trying to unify something that can't be unified. I don't believe the Democratic Party can unify against Donald Trump. That is a facade. The Democratic Party is made up of so many different facets of people that are just frustrated because they have nowhere else to go, because third parties, the system is designed in a way to keep third parties down. And I think this election is is going to show us like whether we can form a new party or not. And I think we need to continue pushing for outside voices like third parties, whether it's Green, whether it's a new one, to be heard, because that's the only way you're going to see some accountability from the Democratic Party, is when people take to the streets, when people demonstrate like the way Bolivians have demonstrated, the way people in Chile have demonstrated, the way people in Brazil have demonstrated. And France with the yellow vest, we have not done that. I think it's coming to the point where we need to do that.
Yeah.
And when we haven't. And I think it's ridiculous. Like, we're not going to unite, because I'm not the same. Like, Republicans think Democrats are all one monolith, and we're not. Yeah. Like, I'm not the same as a Hillary Clinton supporter or even a Warren supporter. I am not remotely close to being on that end of the spectrum. I am far to the left of that. In fact, Bernie Sanders in the national, international level is actually close to being he's left of center.
Yeah.
He's left of center. In America, they try to make propaganda of him being a crazy socialist communist, but in reality, that's not where he lies. Warren is actually an actual center right, and everybody else is pretty much like super, super far right. And that's the thing. And I don't like to adhere to labels, but just so people imagine how crazy our government is, and how far away it's come from away from the people and towards money and towards that. Because the only way to actually change things, and the only way to get rid of things like the Patriot Act, and the only way to get more civil liberties for us, as you say, is to, one, stop funding these wars, stop the regime change, and put in somebody as president who is going to stand up for that and is going to promote a people first. Yeah. I think that will help build the momentum to have more people get involved.
Yeah. Well, there's certain things I think we could do. Number one, we have to support independent media. I mean, really.
Absolutely.
And I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about the gray zone right now. What a group of people can really do, and the impact they can really have to always get it right, and to do it on a nickel and dime when it's so hard. Mm-hmm. What they did, arresting Max Blumenthal, was disgusting. Medea Benjamin, they've been hassling her. So supporting independent media, the people who actually go there to those places, is important. Number two, we have to lose our sense of sensationalism. Okay? I mean, I'm not one to trash Obama just because I find it fun, okay? Yeah. I don't get joy out of it. I knocked on doors for the man. But if we don't really call this party for what it is, and the leaders of this party for what they really are, right, they're going to continue to pull the wool over the eyes. Because, like you said, they think a lot of Democrats are all the same and they're monolith. I think a lot of Democrats are guilty of the same practice of pointing the finger at the right before. Absolutely. And saying the right was the same, when they had a movement with their Tea Party where they were somewhat anti-establishment, and through the front door, walking out the front door was Donald Trump because of it. And I remember us lumping them too as well. Oh, the right, the right, the right. No, there's different facets of the right. You know what I'm saying? And we have to recognize that as well. But if we don't call Obama for what he was and what he did with Hillary Clinton, if we don't call what Bill Clinton did too as well, you know what I'm saying? If we don't call these atrocities out on our own side, and I'm always big about cleaning my own house first, we'll never get past this. We'll never move on.
There's no accountability in the Democratic Party. Because
what happened in the Ukraine, and tomorrow we have Kevin Zesa on, we're going to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? This whole impeachment is nothing more than a distraction. Nobody wants to talk about what happened in 2014, the way Obama destroyed Ukraine with the help, his front man, of Biden. And everybody was getting their hands dirty over there. So that's why when Donald Trump goes looking for dirt, and maybe he was or maybe he wasn't, it's well within his purview to ask these things. The institution of the presidency means he's allowed to go do these things, and you better accept that. It's just, that's why they pulled the flag and they pulled the string on impeachment now, is because they don't want them finding out. They don't want the American people finding out what really happened in Kiev in 2014 and who was involved. And it was the Democrats, just like the Republicans did in Iraq.
Why didn't the Democrats impeach Donald Trump for interfering and helping, trying to oust the coup in Venezuela? Why didn't the Democrats impeach Donald Trump for Bolivia? Like, for his cabinet members and his people siding with this, just in like this corrupt sort of ousting of Morales.
Well, the Dems, their argument is that, Trump's doing it because, he wants to get rid of Biden, the leading candidate. Yeah. No. But in reality, Biden's not the leading candidate at all.
No, no.
Those fake polls. Those
Well,
are fake polls. Those are not accurate polls.
Exactly. They're not accurate polls. But what I'm saying is the Democrats won't impeach Trump on things that he can be impeached on because they would have to impeach themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're involved in that sort of regime change. They're involved in all of this. So it's not like I'm against holding Donald Trump accountable for the things he has done. But impeach him on the things he has done. Don't impeach him on a bullshit to make yourself look better so you don't have to hold accountability to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with the impeachment. And that's why we haven't I refuse to even like participate in that sort of circus. And I really I'm just so fed up with it. And we're gonna talk more about that tomorrow. But there was, meddling by Ukraine, but with American help.
Yeah.
In the 2016
From the
elections.
Clintons.
Exactly. So it's like no, it's just I just won't participate in that circus of this trial. We're in the middle of an election and the Democrats want to pretend they want to impeach Donald Trump to get rid of him while continuing to push these vile politicians to run and continuing to ignore and smear Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's
I'm
the
done with
argument
it.
too, though. A lot of people say this, like, well, is it really a fair assessment that Donald Trump is really going and kind of digging for dirt in the Ukraine because he wants to smear Joe Biden, or is it really because he wants to clear his name on Russiagate? Is he really being genuine about as far as looking for real corruption, whatnot? I mean, that's a valid argument if you want to say that, okay?
Right.
But let's be honest. We know what happened in the Ukraine in 2014, and there's no way they can escape that, and they're trying to escape that. And the main thing is that nobody, especially in the Democratic Party, thought that Donald Trump would ever win this thing, and they would ever have to speak for their sins that happened there. You know what I'm saying? Well, guess what? The chickens is coming home to roost. And now your ass is caught in your hands in the cookie jar. And guess what? Tomorrow on Independent Media, we're going to talk a little bit about, I don't want to ruin what we're going to talk about tomorrow, but we have Kevin Zeese here. We're going to talk about some impeachment, but we're going to talk about, and that's what the Democrats do now. They start praising people. They start propping people up. This person is so courageous for saying what she said and doing these things. Like, no, you got a dirty trail and you were involved in it.
They do this all the time. It's so fucking obnoxious.
It's terrible.
I'm so done with it.
None of them thought that Donald Trump would win, and now it's like a deer in headlights. Boom. John Kerry, his son, Hunter Biden, Paul Pelosi, Adam Schiff. You know what I'm saying? Adam Schiff for brains. Sorry. Again with this guy. You know what I'm saying? Trying to cover up the fact that Igor Pasternak, who got lucrative contracts with the new government after the bloody regime change. And that's the thing. That's why I kind of got mad at Tulsi Gabbard for tying her name to this particular impeachment, because this impeachment is all about a distraction. The inquiry. Whatever. It's all about a distraction from what really happened in the Ukraine, and I don't want her to be a part of it because that's what this is really about. They don't want anybody to know the bloody coup they supported. Sorry.
I really like what Tony watches closely, our boy said.
What do you say?
Says they have no problem funding his war budget, but want to impeach him for Creepy Joe's bullshit.
Yeah.
Glory Jones with a Super Chat contribution. Thank you for the Super Chat contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch.
Glory just wants me to punch you eventually.
Yes,
I know
she
that's
does.
what she does.
Free Assange. He could die if he doesn't get help.
Absolutely.
I agree. That is something that's
100%.
so disgusting that's going on. There are a lot of ins and outs to that situation.
And the only person that's really, really like taken a side on this has been, well, before Mike Rebell had said something, but Tulsi Gabbard has been the sole presidential candidate to speak about, how we need to pay attention to what's happening to Assange, and how this is so important for our freedoms. And if we had a chance to ask Bernie Sanders that question, I would ask him that question again, because I believe it's something that he needs to stand on. I think a lot of people, a lot of my comrades on the left dismiss that because they say, well, he's running and it's so dangerous. I'm like, no, dude, like we're past that. We are past that. This is fascism. People think fascism only exists on the right. It exists on the left as well, because it's not really the left. That's the thing. It's all part of the same monolith. It's part of the same. Yeah. We're gonna spy on you more, so you don't commit a crime. Or versus on the right, it's like, well, we're gonna promote a sort of like one nationalist type of government. It's the same thing. It all ends up in the same place because they're all part of this like centrist like mindset that's so outdated from what this generation and the coming generations want. Yeah, it's just wrong. And
Eder 120V Bear says Trump will win re-election in a landslide because the impeachment circus makes the Democrats look like insane people, and that a lot of people are saying that too as well. And Chris Brand even says, I believe the corruption will be exposed, and the Dems are just panicking. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll win unless they nominate Bernie Sanders. I mean, I think either they nominate him. I mean, if Tulsi gets in far enough, I feel like she could win. But those are the only two. I do not see anybody else being able to actually win against Donald Trump.
Couple people on the Facebook. Brenda Gutierrez, how you doing, sweetheart? Robin Gibson, Steve Woolbrand, thank you so much for hanging on out.
What's up, guys?
Michael Rayburn is also on the Facebooksies. And we have a ton of people.
Man,
Dana
you're so
Fairbanks,
obnoxious.
Ted Calvin, Paul BSO Gaming. We just read one of his comments. Eder, we read one of yours. Karen M, Lewis Bay, Mark Dobson. We have 150 people watching on the Convo Couch YouTube. We want to get up to 300. So like, share, subscribe. Thank you to our new Patreons. We're up to 58 Patreons. We're coming close to 60, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for that. Fam, you got some words from your boy Evo?
Yeah.
The only indigenous leader of South and Central America ever.
So Evo Morales was accused of terrorism and sedition. And so basically what this means is if he comes back, they're gonna kill him. And of course we're complicit in all of this, and I just wanted to show this article. The interim president, of course, has accused him of that, and this is for his alleged role in fomenting unrest in the country. We know who was fomenting unrest in the country was this fake government, and it backed, of course, and helped by the U.S. And the only person that is connected the U.S. to that, of course, is Tulsi Gabbard. Thankfully, Bernie Sanders and a few others have called it a coup. That's exactly what it is. And I think now what we need to continue doing is continue talking about this and continue pushing to protect Evo Morales, who has sought protection under AMLO in Mexico. And this is why it was so important to point out the Pete Buttigieg thing, because we don't want a country like Mexico to get involved into a sort of, a quarrel with us, because they right now have a good leftist sort of government. And what do you think is next for Bolivia? What do you think is Evo Morales'
Well, I'm still hoping, fam, that a million indigenous people march in the middle of the night.
And they have continued doing so.
No, I'm hoping that they march in the middle of the night. And I don't want to say this, but what I'm saying? Some serious action. I don't want to say something that I could be promoting violence, whatnot, but they need to take back their government. We read the statistics over here, the way he just helped the indigenous poor people.
Absolutely.
Everybody in this country. I mean, he's one of the best leaders in South and Central America, in this region, for a long, long time. I say South Central and North America, I should say too, because he's, if not one on the hemisphere, he's one of the best leaders. This guy, and this is why independent media is so important. Why we went to the KDEM convention and we put it on record. They couldn't even say it was a coup.
None of these people that went to the what is it, like the spin room, said that it was a coup. Not a single one. Yeah. Because Bernie was out there in the caucuses, and we know he said it was a coup, and Tulsi wasn't invited. And by the time they were like, oh, we'll invite you because Warren and Biden didn't go, she had other plans. Yeah. So you know what? Other than those two, none of those people at the debates are for calling this a coup, and they're gonna practice the same regime change type of foreign policy. And Tulsi called it out. She's like, Kamala Harris doesn't have any substance because she's likely gonna continue the same foreign policy that happened under the Obama Clinton administration and the Bush administration, and that's it. That's why they continue to smear this woman.
And we got to get that clip of when we asked Rusty Hicks the process, Johnny. We probably should get that for tomorrow. When we asked Rusty Hicks the process and what they use to invite people. Well, I checked this poll on a Tuesday, that poll on a Wednesday, and if it rained, I went to this third poll. But if it was cloudy, I had to stick with this fifth poll, and then we made the decision. Just bullshit, and try to act like they invited, went down a list. Like we said, we spoke to the campaign, and they said plain and simple, it's that they weren't a part of the original 8.
They weren't. Which
Booker was, and Cory Booker was over there praising the OAS, by the way. Yeah. Another bullshit friggin' institution, another strong-arm attachment of the deep state and the CIA that does their bidding. OAS, who said the Venezuelan elections were fugazi, while the Jimmy Carter Institute said they were the best, did the same thing over here in Bolivia. Once again, that's what these institutes came after Reagan. in the 80s, and they spawned out, and they're made to see like, oh, we're protecting democracy, but no, they're just a strong arm bureaucracy agency of imperialism, plain and simple.
Absolutely, fam. Fam.
Yes.
So a lot of people call Bernie Sanders a communist. A lot of people say that he's this crazy radical socialist that's going to take this country into being Venezuela. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because Venezuela is Venezuela mainly because of us and the sanctions we impose. But apart from that, the idea that Bernie Sanders is a crazy socialist is just wrong. And it's backed by not only some economists, but some very respected business people in the field. And this guy, he was at a CEO investor forum in New York, and he pretty much pointed out that the way some Americans talk about Bernie is just completely ignorant.
Yeah.
And he said when people talk Bernie Sanders as if he's a communist, they show a profound ignorance of the market and of history. His name is Strine, and he also said that while he doesn't agree with all of Sanders's proposals, that they're not radical from a historical and global perspective. Sanders is actually a centrist by the standards of some of our closest and most prosperous European allies, as I said before. And this is the guy, Leo Strine. And he said there is profound economic insecurity. That is the sort of thing that happened in the late 20s and 30s, and that we overcame with New Deal democracy, which became a role model for market dynamism, and that was tempered by fairness for everybody. And then he goes on to talk about how his proposals are similar to FDR's, and how this is needed to raise people out of poverty. And he says Sanders' ideology is not too far removed from Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal vision, and Americans need to shed this Cold War mindset that intensified alongside the rise of neoliberalism in the late 1970s. And this is true, especially if you want to talk to people who are afraid of the word democratic socialist. Because Bernie isn't really like that radical at all. I mean, like he said, like a bunch of people are trying to make people understand. If you look back at the economic policies and this economic situation from the 20s and the 30s, and you compare it to now, it's very, very similar. And the way to get people out of this economic situation, you have to implement strong, bold economic policies like that, including like a federal jobs guarantee, including a sort of Medicare for all, to raise people out of poverty, put money back in their pockets, and have them spend money. Bernie Sanders isn't calling for the abolition of property. He's not even calling for the abolition of like commerce and markets. So there's no way in hell that he's even a socialist to begin with, you know. And I think just kind of destroying that concept is key to making people understand that, you know, this guy he's not even Evo Morales. He's not even that far left.
Yeah. It's so funny because I remember this is these labels, and this is where we're at, because, you know, Donald Trump, a lot of people think, oh, he's dumb and he's a racist. Well, I don't know if he's a racist or not, but I know he's a race baiter. I know he knows how to bait these people, and he does the same thing when it comes to this. When it comes to socialism, whatever, he goes, it's not that socialism has been blindly implemented. I'm sorry. It's not that socialism has been blindly implemented. It's that it's been faithfully implemented. I'm sorry. I just saw him say that the other day. And it reminds me of when I'm on bank. I was online at the bank the other day, and it was just so funny. And I was talking about Bernie Sanders, and I was talking about it. And the gentleman in front of me was an older guy. Look, what are you guys doing? You commies, you guys, they're awful. Socialism is terrible. And I don't know what you guys are going to ruin America. And then he goes to the window and he puts his check down, and the lady's like, sir, you're cashing your Social Security check today? It's like, guys, is this kind of, and that's the thing. We're not going to have this kind of brand of socialism that was like, you know, back in the Stalin days. We're going to have our own brand of socialism.
He's not a I mean, he could be. This is an argument another person brought up on my Facebook. But maybe personally, Bernie Sanders is more to the left than what he's presenting, right? Because personally, I'm more to the left than what I'm voting for. Because I really don't have any other option here. But, you know, and that's the thing, like there's a sort of level where you do have to be some sort of pragmatic, because there's a lot of actual communists in America and in Canada. that are very, are like, well, he's not even really a socialist and he should do this and that. But it's like, in order to get to a certain more openness, to have more of these different sort of ideologies, you need to have someone in there that's willing to bring those people in. And Bernie Sanders is that guy. And I firmly believe, like, once we have somebody like that, it's going to initiate this momentum to have more of an openness and have maybe 3rd, 4th, 5 parties. And then ranked choice voting is another thing that we need to continue pushing for, because that's going to prop up Green Party candidates and et cetera. So,
yeah. And I think the fact is, people, and I've heard Bernie Sanders say this before, it's like, we're already in a quasi kind of socialist type of government. We have social securities, we have a police force, we have a public schools,
libraries,
we have a lot
roads.
of things like that. He
Military.
just wants, yes, he just wants to improve the safety nets for some, and lower the complete extraction by those up top who keep on extracting all the finances. He wants to just kind of even keel that out, because we are one planet, we are one people, we need to live together, we have to protect our planet, Mother Earth, and we have to live together. And the only reason why we have so many poor is because there's a small group that want to be uber rich and hog all those resources. And at the end of the day, that's what we have to combat.
Right.
I know the labels kind of scare people, and that's good thing about Tulsi is that she doesn't have those labels. And even though Bernie unjustly has a bad label that really he doesn't deserve. He's a New Deal Democrat, just like FDR, and he wants to protect those same things. It's FDR's vision in what he's pushing
and
for.
I'll say that the majority of Bernie supporters who are like me are actually to the left of him, but they're willing to understand, like, okay, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, and etc. And I do like that Tulsi doesn't have any labels, because that helps her bring voters that are independent or even to the right, who are just disgruntled with the right. And it's important because I think that'll have play later on. And also because if you look at her policies, they're progressive policies.
Yeah.
So I don't really care what she calls herself.
Yeah. And it's so funny because she's moved further to the left, and yet she's getting smeared by some left channels like TYT on a regular basis, when, like, they used to praise her at one point, and now she's even evolved on certain issues, especially when it comes to foreign policy and other. I mean, she's just gotten better, and she's listened. I mean, I believe she's one of the only candidates that stands for reparations too, right?
Yeah, she's
Marianne Williamson
and Bernie.
I mean, like, they're the few, and once again, she just gets crucified by some people on the left that call her trash, and I hate it. Thank you for the super chat contribution, Denise Gibson 53. It's a big one, and I appreciate it. We always appreciate it on the couch. It says,
"Thank you, Denise.
Tulsi has spoken out about regime change, but according to Joy Reid, it sounds a little Kremlin-y. It's a little Kremlin-y, a little Kremlin-y. Yeah. Joy, asked Tulsi for an interview so Tulsi can teach you what it means, especially from a soldier who deployed twice to the Middle East."
And when they say these things, they don't even know what they mean. Like, what's her face when she called her a toady? Like, they don't know what it means. They're just saying things.
Darren Levy
repeating
joined
CIA
in.
talking points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I actually just found the clip. If you guys want to watch a little bit
Please,
of that.
let's play it. The Kremlin-y.
What party did you see on
Deep State. Gotcha.
What is happening?
That's weird.
Deep State, gotcha. Deep State.
Oh, shut up.
on that stage?
Like I said.
Wow, that's weird. You want to read?
What party did you see on that stage?
Our audio's haunted.
That's
Pasta-
weird because it's
Pasta
like
says-
MSNBC, like
Pasta
official.
says deep state. I'd say it's haunted.
Haunted, whatever. Darren Levy, Corbyn may lose the UK election due to him backtracking on respecting Brexit, trying to appease the Blairites, and 4 years of MSN mainstream media attacks against him every day, losing northern working class heartlands to Bojo and Farage. Now, listen, I wanted to have George Galloway on this show to talk about that. George Galloway is one of those guys who believes in Brexit, and a lot of people say that Brexit was more voted on about people who really wanted to control the immigration in their country, that it had a lot of nefarious reasons behind it. But there were people who were pro-Brexit on the left who also thought it wasn't wise for people in, what's the word? Where do they do a lot of? In Brussels. Mm-hmm. They didn't want people in Brussels determining what goes on in England. So a lot of people were pro-Brexit for that reason. They wanted England to do. It was kind of like this nationalist kind of mentality of sorts and ways. But, I mean, people like George Galloway, and there are other people who were there, who supported it and said the people voted for it. We have to put it through. Now, Darren Levy's talking, and he's pointing out the fact that he might lose because he's trying to appease a certain group within the left over there, right? So he's got to be careful about what he does because Jeremy Corbyn needs to get in. You know what I'm saying? And he needs to be the president of everybody. The beautiful thing about Tulsi Gabbard is she says it all the time. She wants to be everybody's president.
Prime Minister.
Not just, the Prime Minister. I'm sorry. Tulsi Gabbard wants to be everybody's president. You know what I'm saying? For people who disagree with her, too, as well. Bernie Sanders, the same thing. I'm going to go talk to Fox people. That's important. So I hope that I'm not deep down this rabbit hole. Sorry about that, washing that off. But I hope that he doesn't blow it by just trying to appease one side. And Darren Levy, please give us more information. So
I think the video works now, so let's try.
Let's try it again. This is a little Kremlin-y. I can't even say it. Kremlin-y.
Juicy on display on that stage tonight.
Well, I thought it was a lively debate. A couple of things just to run through quickly. I think because our friend here said a lot of stuff. I think with Tulsi Gabbard, the challenge, I think, with Ms. Gabbard is, yes, as somebody who was very much against the Iraq War, got out of news, really, initially because of my opposition to the Iraq War. I think a lot more people than we know feel that way. Even people who have military backgrounds who say, why did we do this? Why did we spend our country's human resources on this war? And I think it was a lot of the reason that Barack Obama was a viable candidate for president, is that he could see ahead that this was not a wise idea. And I think a lot of Democrats preferred him over Hillary Clinton in 2008 because of that. I think that that's true. I think the challenge that Tulsi Gabbard is having is that you can feel that way about the Iraq War, as I definitely did, but also find it odd that the way she talks about regime change wars is exactly the same way that Russia talks about them.
Right.
She uses this language that feels straight out of kind of the Kremlin.
Sure.
It is odd.
Yeah.
And that she went to see Bashar al-Assad and cannot take away from her interaction with him or her observation of him that he is a criminal who is not just hurting random people. He's hurting his own people.
The fact that she couldn't call him a war criminal is stunning.
That you can't see what he is also a weird Kremlin-y view that she has of the world that makes her an odd fit for a party of Democrats. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's red baiting at its finest. That is just disgusting. And Michael Moore, you're sitting there agreeing with it, you donkey. And same with Wallace, too, as well, the big war criminal himself. These people are neo-friggin' progressive, neoliberal, neo-warmongering pieces of dumb.
I mean, I could say Moore is a neo-progressive, but I would say the rest of them are hardcore neoliberals.
They are.
First of all, we have evidence that the chemical attacks in Syria were fake. Like, there's literal evidence now. Like, everybody who has been on the right side of this has been vindicated. So don't even start with the whole, Assad is a war criminal. If Assad is a war criminal, sure, whatever. Her meeting with him has nothing to do with that. And they focus on the fact that she doesn't call him a war criminal, that if she doesn't say those exact words, she's actually said worse, which to my disappointment, because I felt like she was being attacked and she was being placed in this hole. But the reality is they don't want to call war criminals who are actual war criminals. We can start with Hillary Clinton as an example.
Obama
as
in
another.
Syria. And
you can't even name Obama in a negative way. Not even Tulsi or Bernie will even do it. And it really irritates me because this is what they do. They turn it around and they're willing to, make Bernie a communist and make Tulsi a Russian asset in order to foment their sort of stupid narrative that is entirely false, and it's just based on whatever they're making up.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part, is that the majority of Americans get mainstream media all the time, and eventually, if you keep hearing it, you're going to start repeating it without even realizing what you're repeating.
I thought you were going to hear him say, when we return to MSDNC, we will be covering...
That's what it is. It's
MSDNC.
It's MSDNC.
MSDNC here, because that's all they are. And it's really disgusting the fact that they can go over there and they can say, she met with him, it's Kremlin. That is just red baiting, xenophobic. These people need to be removed. You got to stop watching
Russian
these people.
talking points straight out of the Moscow. What was it?
It's so bad. It's very. She talks about regime change the way. What does that mean? What the fudge does that mean? She talks about regime change and the blood on our hands, and they just wipe it away like it's nothing. These people, like it's nothing. Getting paid, and they're all agreeing it. Was that Claire McCaskill up there on that stage? I believe. I think it was Claire McCaskill, the blonde lady in the glasses, the one from Missouri, who just was another arm of the Clinton machine. Yeah, that's Claire McCaskill right over there. And then you got friggin' Michael Moore agreeing with this stuff completely. And then the
It was a Bernie surrogate, by the way.
Who is?
Michael Moore.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I wasn't too happy about him either.
These people are just terrible.
He's not terrible, but if foreign policy wise, he's pretty ignorant.
Brian Williams is a piece of shit.
Oh yeah,
lying about war, and now because he's got that vote, they are defined by the beauty of our weapons. Yeah, the beauty of weapons that are going to kill innocent people. You're disgusting. These are the people we got to call out. Thank you for watching our channel and calling them out as well. Zach, we'll call you after. We're in the middle of the show over here, okay?
Jeez, Zach.
Zach, please.
Fam,
we got another topic, though.
I do.
Because your boy...
if you be quiet, I can start on it, fam.
Well, you're going to talk... Wait. Bloomberg, your boy.
So the Sanders campaign has been speaking out against Bloomberg's run because Bloomberg pretty much bought himself in. I mean, you have to know it's late November now. The primary is coming up in February for the first states and then in March for California. And Bloomberg just jumped in. And Bernie Sanders and his campaign, specifically David Serrata, have been calling out that the reason that Bloomberg is running is actually not to stop Donald Trump, but to stop Bernie Sanders. And I 100% agree with this. I think that the reason they put Bloomberg in is because Biden isn't really polling, like Jonny said, as high as these polls indicate at all. I mean, you have to take into consideration the amount of volunteers Bernie has, the amount of the people in the rallies. You have to take into consideration the amount of money he gets from many, many donors. And all of this combined with the fact that the mainstream media is against him and the corporations are against him signal that they are desperate. They are completely desperate. And Serrata has called this out on multiple occasions, and he said Bloomberg is primarily motivated by a desire to stop Bernie and his working class movement. And if you guys want to read more up on this, he said this in the Burn After Reading newsletter that they send out. And he said, the timing of Bloomberg's announcement lines up with Sanders' rise in the polls, which is true, and a well-reported meeting between the media mogul and Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. So Bloomberg and Bezos met together. Imagine that. That's like Darth Vader and the Sith Lord meeting together and trying to take over the galaxy. I mean, that is literally what is happening. They're awful. They're billionaires, and they have so much power between them. And they're also friends with Bill Gates and also with Disney's Bob Iger. And this run, he says, is reminiscent of his decision in 2016 to float a run in order to take down the Sanders campaign. So this has been happening over and over and over again. And what we have to understand here is that the reason they're doing this, even though it's so maddening, it's so, like, it makes you so angry, is because Bernie is rising. Yeah. And they really don't know what to do. They're freaking out. Warren is actually sinking. And I think not only did Tulsi do some damage for the little bit of damage she did and starting to call her out, but Bernie Sanders supporters and like all of us who outside of the campaign have been pushing the vast differences between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And I think it's hit to a point where Elizabeth Warren also did a lot of damage to herself by flip-flopping on Medicare for All, by, saying that she's cool with billionaires, and by just not standing for anything. Yeah. Like, when you don't stand for anything, it's worse, because if she was at least standing to be a hardcore centrist, that would signal the centrists, okay, that's fine, we'll support her. But if she's like sort of dipping her toe in the progressive and then dipping her toe back into being a centrist, she's not standing for anything. And so they really don't have a candidate there. Buttigieg, he's sort of keeping some high-end polls in Iowa, but then there's that whole lie that he made regarding the black endorsements, which is disgusting. And then, of course, now that he was just annihilated and eviscerated by Tulsi Gabbard, it's not going to go well for him. So they really don't have anybody.
And the media spin was kind of cool on that too, wasn't it, Fam?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to make it look like Buttigieg really beat up on Tulsi when he got, he lost his shit. He got aggravated. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And there are, listen, I think it's coming out. You see Warren even more. She's getting exposed not just on our domestic policies where people are going, wait a second, her foreign policy is awful. So as that's coming out, you know what I'm saying? I think there's a unity which needs to take place between three campaigns.
Right.
I think the Bernie people need to stop supporting Elizabeth Warren second.
100%.
And have to somewhat support Tulsi Gabbard and a little bit of Andrew Yang, because the Andrew Yang people can come over. They are open-minded. They are pretty good. So you don't want to necessarily attack them. You can attack their ideas, but let's be really civil about it, whatnot. Let's not demonize these people, because these are the people that are going to come over and really help Bernie get over the top.
Absolutely. And I actually was with a bunch of burners yesterday, and the majority of them, there was a Yang Gang. I was at a parade yesterday, and there was a Yang Gang sign over there, and some of the burners went over to talk to them, and they liked the Bernie van, because we had a Bernie van with a rotating Bernie head. And they were like talking to each other, and the burners were like, oh, and this is on the ground grassroots burners. They were like, oh, we like the Yang Gang. They're not bad. And, I don't really agree with Andrew Yang's policies necessarily, but hey, I think they could be Bernie votes later on. And that's the mindset we need to have. And I think on Twitter, you see a lot of like haters like, oh, Tulsi Gabbard needs to drop out and endorse Bernie. Like Michael Brooks went on and said like, oh yeah, well, good job, Tulsi. Now she needs to drop out. And it's like, no, dude, that's not how you win over votes. That's disingenuous. You don't need to vote shame people. That's a progressive ally. And I think she has every right to run. And I even say that about Warren. She has every right to run, but I don't think she's an ally. And there's a difference. And I think we can get the Yang people and even the Marianne people, once Marianne decides to call it quits, to get those votes. Yeah. How do you plan on getting those votes if you're going to vilify and, just insult the supporters? And I think I understand there's a lot at stake here in this election, but right now in the primary we need to play our cards right. And I posted the video the day before yesterday where I was pretty much talking about the same thing. Like, Warren is a threat. We need to unite the Yangs, the Mariannes, and the Tulsis and the burners in a way to be prepared to back the candidate that has the largest chance of winning and getting ourselves in there, maybe getting Yang, Marianne, Tulsi into the cabinet positions, into some of these things, building a progressive coalition. We cannot win only with Bernie by himself. He's not going to be able to do this. He's said it time and time again. And Elizabeth Warren getting in there is my fear. Elizabeth Warren is not a progressive, and that's how they'll keep a hold of power and consolidate that power. And it's already happening. We're seeing, the some of these people in the campaign that are just really questionable, like Sarsour, and I'm not even gonna go deep on that, but I'm just gonna say it's something that we need to all pay attention to.
Yeah, and before Johnny gets a little something come up for the Andrew Yang, I want to think who's more nauseous, Michael Brooks or Bill Maher, because they're both vote shaming. I have to idiots.
Say Bill Maher.
I mean, I don't know. Michael Brooks is pretty bad right now. He's really, really pissing me off. And
you'd be surprised at the countless progressives that like him, and I don't get it.
I don't know why. I don't know why. Johnny, what do you got on Andrew Yang?
Yeah, our friend Liz, Super Progressives.
All right, Liz.
Instagram. She sells those great shirts. She was talking about how Yang really impressed her this week, standing up to MSNBC.
Right.
So he made a tweet.
He did.
He said, was asked to appear on MSNBC this weekend and told them that I'd be happy to, after they apologize on air, discuss and include our campaign consistent with our polling and allow surrogates from our campaign as they do other candidates. They think we need them. We don't. And I just want to say,
wow, 91,000 likes.
We've been saying this.
Wow.
I don't think at all that Yang is an establishment candidate. He's not. I think he's proven that.
Yeah, I think he's anti-establishment. I'm not fully convinced he's progressive, but I definitely think he's anti-establishment. And I think even being anti-establishment in the climate that we're in is necessary. And I'll take that as somebody that could be an ally. And the way for him to show that he's going to be that is to, kind of send his voters out to that way towards either, the Bernie and the Tulsi. And I think a lot of Tulsi supporters, like I said before in the last show, really like the Yang Gang because they are the candidates that have been smeared the most, given the least amount of time to speak. And they kind of find some sort of camaraderie there in that respect. And I think we need to, as a burner, I firmly believe in at least being fair. Andrew Yang got less than half of the time Elizabeth Warren got. Pete Buttigieg, who isn't polling much higher than him, got second most time. It's ridiculous.
The first 32 minutes, they didn't let Andrew Yang talk, but at least they didn't call him John Yang, right? They could have called him John Yang.
Yeah, apparently, after that tweet, he made another comment. He says, they've omitted me from their graphics 12 plus times, calling me John Yang on air, and gave me a fraction of speaking time over 2 debates despite my polling higher than other candidates on the stage. At some point, you have to call it.
Yeah,
Good
you
for
do.
you. Good for you, Yang.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't like his stances on Rushgate.
I don't like
He's
his stances on a
terrible.
lot of
Israel, on
things.
a
That
bunch of
first
shit.
question, man, about what would you say to Vladimir Putin? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'm sorry your candidate win. And secondly, how dare you mess in elections? It's like,
No.
dude, that's not what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not what we want to hear.
I don't have to like his policies to say the way he's being treated is unfair. As simple as that. Yeah. Like, it's just not fair. And if you're going to be progressive and stand against unfairness and stand for justice, it has to come across the board, even if it's not your candidate, even if you don't agree with them. So. And
hashtag Epstein didn't kill himself. Johnny, what else we got before we get on out of here? We got to go see Barzy play.
Real quick.
And now,
SNL,
I was gonna ask you to pull it up.
They're definitely part of the propaganda machine.
They are.
But this was actually
Genius.
kind of funny,
This
to
is
be
hysterical.
honest. I'm just gonna show.
You want to show the Tulsi one?
Tulsi part because that shit made me laugh hard.
What's her face who does Elizabeth Warren is hilarious because she does Elizabeth Warren really well.
Yeah, but Maya Rudolph doing Kamala Harris was
Oh my
great
God.
too. I mean,
she really nails Kamala Harris, and she's a better Kamala Harris than Kamala Harris is.
It's down
wanna
that
point
way,
that
Johnny.
out.
There it is. And let me tell you something. I really hate the way they kind of have Will Ferrell kind of do Steyer, like he's just scared. And
I didn't like
Steyer
that
really
either.
believes his own shit. I mean, once again, I think
He's
think
just frigid.
We have the same kind
Rigid.
of mentality when it comes to Steyer. Why didn't you pass that on to somebody younger, an activist who doesn't have your track record, who's not another oligarch, who's not another guy who has a lot of money jumping into the race?
Another
like
old
Bloomberg.
guy too.
Just you got to find somebody young right there that you can say, hey, listen, I'm going to support your candidacy and push you forward. It's not just about me. So go ahead.
All right, let's take a look at this.
Underdog candidate and tonight's villain, Tulsi Gabbard.
Thank you, Rachel. What an honor it is to be on this stage with my fellow candidates. I want you to know that I smell your fear and it makes me stronger. I'm wearing the white suit of your fallen hero, Hillary Clinton. Now fight me, cowards.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Tulsi, I'm going to be real with you, all right? You scare the hell out of me. You just gave me, oh my God, Gersberms.
If Kamala Harris were honest, that's what she would say. Because she did look scared after the interview. She looked like she didn't know
super scared
what she was going to do. Like if Kamala Harris were a better Kamala Harris, she would be Maya Rudolph. So.
Well, we have a super chat contribution before we get on out of here. It's from Denise Gibson, 53. Thank you for the super chat contribution.
Thank
you,
Denise.
Is always appreciated on this couch. Right, fam? I found it offensive that Tulsi wasn't asked about the 2 soldiers that were killed recently. Bernie said all of Tulsi's talking points. When was this? During the
Are you
debate?
talking about the debates? I'm not sure which 2 soldiers.
Denise, which 2 soldiers so we know?
I'm not sure about the 2 soldiers.
I was kind of offended that Tulsi didn't get invited into.
Did you say the earlier super chat?
Which one?
Monkissimo?
I think I did. Did I miss it?
Do you believe that soldiers should always be praised for following orders?
Oh, no, I did not. Monkissimo. Here it is. Monkissimo. Do you believe that soldiers should always be praised for following orders, even if it shields our foreign policy from criticism?
No.
No, I don't. I think that's one thing that's it's a confliction there. I mean, there's a certain foreign policy guy out there that I like, but he was saying that Tulsi Gabbard has kind of glorified her service. And I don't think that's true. I think she joined up to be a medic to save our soldiers. She wants to see less people go there, So there are soldiers who joined because they thought, they were fighting for American interests as far as freedom and democracy, and they were lied to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And,
a lot of people were lied to. That's the thing. We were all, the majority of people I knew back then were for going to war to hold these people accountable until we learned the truth. And then we're like, holy shit. we did this.
Yeah. We're going for American imperialism, but the whole thought process is we're going to spread democracy, spread freedom, to protect people, to protect the everyday poor people in all these other countries from atrocities. But really, we're the ones fueling the atrocities. We've been lied to. So I understand the whole mentality about like we support our troops because after 9/11 we thought they went out there to defend our freedom, so we showed them respect. But it is a very serious quagmire we're caught in. The only way to stop this is to stop sending people. The real way to support our troops is to stop sending them off to fight in these wars that are just not really what they're said they're for. And she said during the debate, Denise Gibson from Super Chat contribution. God, I don't even remember that moment.
No.
And we watched the debates. We were covering it. We were doing it live. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that, Denise. It kind of sucks, but once again, the mainstream media and the elites, they don't want Tulsi to speak in certain areas.
She didn't get asked enough foreign policy questions either. We pointed that out because she would have killed them. It would have shown her off. Same as Elizabeth Warren didn't get asked them. And if she did, it was framed in a way to make her look good. Yeah. And they do this on purpose, of course.
Yeah. And remember, when it comes to certain issues, everybody has their issues that are important. Mine, civil liberties. She didn't get a chance to talk with she's doing the biggest thing by going out and suing Google. That is huge, guys. You don't understand how big this is. This isn't just a personal thing. This is fighting for all our civil liberties, because civil liberties have a lot to do with controlling the narrative. It's not just saying that this person could say this and that person could say this. It creates a narrative. It creates a story, which allows us to be imperialistic around the world because they manufacture consent, and a lot of people stand behind them because they think that Bashar al-Assad gassed his people. Look at the way these people are talking. The biggest criminal, the biggest war criminal in Syria was Barack Obama. He signed off on Timber Sycamore?
Yes.
All right. And that allowed the craziest jihadists to get funding and weapons to go around and cause murder and chaos throughout the region so that we can go in there for our American imperialistic corporation needs and take a hold of those gas lines and take a hold of those resources and control those things. I mean, we were just a proxy once again. We wanted to stick a knife into Russia's side. And the biggest war criminal is over there was Barack Obama. You know what I'm saying? And Hillary Clinton. Those are the people who should be blamed. Our State Department, our CIA, the military-industrial complex just made money hand over fist, just like Dick Cheney did when it came to Iraq, when it came to Halliburton and all these people involved. Somebody said on the chat earlier before, okay? These are the real war criminals. The person going there to speak to not only Assad, but to speak to the opposition with Dennis Kucinich, that is the reason why she's our champion, because she did that. Those reasons right there.
And I love that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that Joy never mentioned that Nancy Pelosi went to speak with Assad also.
Yeah, and terrible. Also, when she said the radical, you're not allowed to call them moderate rebels. You should call them Islamic terrorists. Or what did she say? Radical Islamic. Whatever she was saying, it was true, because these people were the craziest of the crazy. They were there to cause chaos within that country, and that's what they did. That is the real sin. For her saying, no, Obama, you cannot lie, the fact that using the term moderate rebels for these particular type of people, she wasn't talking about all Muslims, fam. She was talking about these particular Muslims, and to this day, she's still crucified from people on the left. It's disgusting, and you need to open your eyes.
Okay.
Johnny, anything else to add before we go out and see the best hockey player in the National Hockey League, and Matthew Barzal, and the hardest working team, and the New York Islanders with Barry Trotz on the ice go for a record 18 point scoring games in a row. In other words, if they get an overtime loss in hockey, fam, you still get a point. So if you get into overtime and lose, you still get a point.
Fam, no one cares about hockey.
The Islanders are going for 18 points in a row.
No
and
one
I'm going to
cares.
take my boy, we're going to go see it.
Fam, there are more important issues than your hockey game. I'm so sorry.
Let me just say this in closing. Michael Brooks is a CIA tool. Pasta Jardula.
Hashtag Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
For Pasta Jardula.
And Fiorella.
Johnny Sue is spinning on those ones and twos.
You're so annoying, fam.
Convo out. And go to our Patreon.
Don't
Help
take
us
my
out.
line.
I'm sorry.
Peace.
You already take everything.
Go Lucky
Shut
Dragon.
up.
Yes, Sparky.
God.